district, is a parent of an Avon graduates, three of them, and aunt of a current Avon student, right? So I'll let Michelle talk a little bit about what she's seen as the impact of our referendum.
I have 3 children. They graduated from Avon High School. They went K through 12 at our schools, and we've lived here 22 years. When we moved here, it was important to me that we find a community that was similar to the one that we left in the Chicago suburbs, because that's where I felt most at home. And when we thought about that, my husband and I thought that it needed to be a strong community, and then we have to think what makes the community strong. And it always goes back to the schools. If you have strong schools, you have strong community, people tie together, people are bound by that. We're all at those performances at the high school and the football games, and it's important. And it was important for me to want to be a teacher where I lived, because that's where I want my focus to be for my kids, for our community. And so that was important. So when I started working here, it was 16 years ago. That was a long time ago. I stayed home with my kids for a while. Like I said, it's important that they get that foundation, and so we were able to do that, especially moving from Chicago to Indiana. It made it a little bit easier. And so we did that, and then I had to think about when the housing boom happened and things like that. And then Avon became big. It wasn't just this little small town. And when we first moved here, it was a very small town. I was like an outsider. Everyone here was from Hendricks County. I thought that was very strange coming from the Chicago area, but it was like that. And so when the kids started school here, it was nice. It was small, but then it got really big, really fast. And my kids were a little, they were one of a lot of kids. And so as a parent, they would come home and we would help with homework, even after I'd been teaching all day. So when we think about what is really important in the effects of this referendum from 2018 was we lived through the first one that didn't pass, and it was not a pretty event. So class size is a huge one. Support staff goes right with that, with a small class size, support staff, and opportunities for the students. And I could not have had a better introduction to what I'm going to say than Mr. Shockley, who just gave you the most amazing data ever. Because while we were at home with one of my daughters, my husband had been looking at how we were going to gain her SAT scores so she could get into a college. And he said, you know what, we got to try this Khan Academy, Michelle. It's individualized. She can do this at home. It'll give her a path, and I'll be darned, she got a full ride to University of Kentucky. Wow. And then she followed it up with Purdue. Now Dave went to IU, so he was not overly thrilled with either, but that's okay. That's a whole nother issue. Yeah, but it was important. The class size is important. These kids are going to be freshmen this coming year. And, oh my gosh, look at those faces. And Mrs. Meisner is in there too. And when I have an instructional assistant in class with me, I cannot even tell you the effects that it has. Because when I've got 22 kids or so in class and an instructional assistant and my son who came in between lunch and from going to Area 31, which I'll get to in the opportunities part, it's amazing what happens. He plays with them at recess, they're ready to go back to school, but really in our class, Mrs. Meisner could take 3 or 4 kids who are struggling. I could take kids who needed some help and meet the legal IEP things, but also the bubble kids that Mr. Shockley is talking about. We can really work with them and help them and move them. And it's so important. And then the ML kids who don't speak English. So they're in a whole group setting and I instruct them and I tell them what to do, and they don't understand a lot of what I'm saying, and they're perfectly capable of it. They're smart as anything. But then we have instructional assistants who come in and they take them apart, take them outside in the hall or in our collaboration rooms, and they're able to teach them vocabulary and sentence structure and things that are going to really help them understand the next day when they come back to the whole group and we're really talking and learning about things. Figurative language is really hard for them, so I really have to have some support with that. Well, I've got the other kids that I can meet with. And then in a week, I've met individually with all the kids in a small group, maybe alone if they, one-on-one if they need that. And that's doable if you've got 22 kids. While I was cleaning out my classroom last week, ironically found this picture. There are 32, and there might be 33. Here, take a peek at that. There's a lot of them. And you don't see any instructional assistant in there, and I have to take the picture because there's no one but me. And it's so much, the kids are not getting what they need and what they really deserve. And I know some people are sitting back and they're thinking, but my child knows the standards and they get all the grades, and I'm with you. I have kids like that too. But you know what? Those are the kids that we don't get to meet with in a class of 32. Those kids need enrichment, and they're not getting it in this class size, because if I have to prioritize things, I've got to go with the legalities. I've got to go with the bubble kids so they can actually perform at grade level and be confident about doing so. But the kids who already met everything, they need enrichment, and they need to be really taught a little bit deeper things. And so you really have a chance to do that in a class of 22. You can do it in this way. And then I get to meet with them too, and it's much nicer, and it really becomes more of a family that way, and not just like there's 33 of us in here, can I go to the bathroom? I don't know. It's a lot. And it works, but not well, and you're not going to get 98% graduation rate at that. And that's where it's really important. And Mr. Shockley, I've heard him say it 100 times. It's not just the high school. It works from bottom up. Everyone's doing their part. Everyone. The maintenance crew, the office staff, the HR team. Everybody is working together. But when we have 22 kids, the kids really feel it, and it's important. So I felt like that was important, that you need to know that. Because of the referendum, the opportunities also really fall in line there too. We've got more sports, because in 2011 they cut a lot of sports. I remember they opened North and they had baseball fields, but they weren't being used because we didn't have any sports, not like that. And I can't even go with the performing arts, I'm sure we're getting there, but I mean, they're amazing. If you ever go to any performances, that's not an accident. That is people working hard, and they're amazing. And then the clubs that the kids can really participate in. At East, I know that my teaching partner and I, we did Genius Hour and had to sign up for it, and it was after school, and the kids love it. They get to dig in and think about what their passion is, and they create things, and they love it, and it's really nice to see that. But we had a Sky Club and Book Club and Student Council and show choir. When kids can do things like that and they're able to, and it's not like costing any money for the parents, this is what makes Avon a place where people want to live. This is why we chose Avon. And my kids lived through no referendum, then a referendum. I've got a graduate from 2019, so that one was a little bit rough. And then 2020, well, that was rough. And then Luke graduated last year. So I cannot tell you anything but when they got to college, they said I was ready. They got me ready. Avon had me ready. But the other thing is, the other opportunity that I don't want to forget about is Area 31. Because not everybody goes to college, and we have this opportunity, and we bus them there. I think this is amazing for kids. And they find a spot where maybe they aren't in an actual classroom where people are worried about SATs, and maybe that's not for them. And we need that, and we provide this for them. And I think we're doing a fantastic job on that. Strong schools, strong community.
Awesome.